Our family camping trip in the lush forests of Washington started as an exciting adventure. I was there with my cousin Luis and the rest of our family, all of us eager for a weekend immersed in nature. The serenity of the forest and the thrill of being outdoors filled us with anticipation. During one of our explorations, Luis and I encountered a peculiar sight: a couple pushing a decrepit shopping cart clanking with rusty metal objects. The woman approached us with a seemingly benign smile, offering assistance to find our way back to the campsite and enticing us with the promise of s'mores. Her friendly demeanor eased our initial hesitation, and we found ourselves following them through the woods. As we walked, a sense of unease began to creep in. The winding paths through the dense forest felt increasingly ominous. The man, who had been silent all this while, had a predatory vigilance in his eyes that unsettled me. The woman's grip on our hands grew firmer, her nails digging into our skin. What started as a friendly gesture now revealed a sinister intention. Our apprehension turned to outright fear when we approached an old, dilapidated trailer hidden among the trees. It was a stark contrast to the natural beauty of the forest, its windows dark and foreboding. The woman's grip turned vice-like, her demeanor shifting from friendly to menacing. Luis and I exchanged a glance, a mutual realization dawning on us about our imminent danger. At that critical moment, my sister's voice echoed through the woods, calling our names. Seizing the opportunity, Luis and I wrenched our hands free from the woman's grasp and ran towards the sound of my sister's voice. We didn't look back, our legs propelled by a mix of adrenaline and terror. The couple's shouts faded into the background as we rushed to the safety of our family. When we finally reached our sister, panting and scared, we explained what had happened. The couple soon encountered our parents and spun a tale of having found us lost in the woods, masking their true intentions with feigned concern. But Luis and I couldn't shake off the chilling realization that we had narrowly escaped a potentially dangerous situation. The moment my sister's voice pierced through the eerie silence of the forest, calling for Luis and me, was the lifeline we didn't know we needed. Seizing the opportunity, we broke free from the woman's vice-like grip and ran towards her voice. Our hearts pounded in our chests as we fled, the couple's shouts echoing behind us, mixing with the rustling of the leaves under our frantic steps. We didn't stop running until we saw the familiar sight of our campsite. Our family gathered there, unaware of the horror we had just escaped. The couple, quick to mask their intentions, followed shortly after. They spun a tale to our parents, claiming they had found us lost in the woods. Their facade of concern was convincing, but Luis and I knew better. The truth about their malevolent intentions was as clear to us as the fear that still lingered in our hearts. In the aftermath of this harrowing encounter, our awareness of the danger we had narrowly escaped settled heavily upon us. Our family camping trip, which had started as an exciting adventure in nature, was now overshadowed by the ordeal. The once inviting forest seemed ominous, hiding threats behind its serene facade. It taught us a crucial lesson about the importance of being cautious, even in places that felt safe. As we packed up to leave the campsite, my thoughts were clouded with the realization that danger could hide behind a friendly smile. My solo camping trip by the riverside was meant to be a peaceful retreat, a chance to connect with nature away from the bustle of daily life. The setting was serene, nestled in a remote spot where the river's gentle flow was the only sound. I was relishing the tranquility, embracing the solitude. That sense of peace was disrupted when John appeared at my campsite. He claimed to be camping nearby and struck up a conversation. Although he seemed friendly at first, something was unsettling about his demeanor, a subtle offness that put me on edge. As I realized John had appeared shortly after I had set up camp, an unnerving suspicion crept in that he might have been watching or even following me. The next day, my unease deepened when I found John sitting by my unlit campfire as if he had been waiting for me. His presence felt intrusive, his eyes holding a strange, almost predatory glint. He eagerly urged me to follow him to the river to see something he claimed was extraordinary. However, my instincts screamed that something was amiss. His invitation carried an underlying threat, and I couldn't shake off the feeling of danger. Politely yet firmly, I declined John's invitation. I trusted my gut feeling, sensing an underlying menace in his demeanor. John's reaction to my refusal was telling. His friendly facade began to crumble, revealing a more ominous nature. I could sense the tension in the air, the once peaceful campsite turning into a backdrop for a frightening standoff. Despite the unsettling atmosphere, I held my ground, keenly aware of every movement John made. It was a moment filled with apprehension, my mind alert to any potential danger. The encounter with John transformed my peaceful solo adventure into a nerve-wracking experience, a stark reminder of the unpredictability of strangers. As I stood there, facing John at my campsite, his friendly demeanor quickly faded into something far more aggressive. It was then that I noticed something chilling, the outline of a gun concealed under his shirt. My heart skipped a beat, realizing the potential danger I was in. The peaceful campsite had suddenly transformed into the setting of a tense standoff, the tranquility replaced by a palpable sense of threat. The air was thick with tension as John and I faced each other. I could feel every muscle in my body tensed, ready to react. Despite my fear, I tried to maintain a semblance of calm, understanding that any wrong move could escalate the situation. After a moment that felt like an eternity, John backed off. He left the campsite, disappearing back into the forest. His departure, however, did little to alleviate the anxiety that had gripped me. For the rest of my trip, I remained in a state of heightened alertness, constantly looking over my shoulder and jumping at every sound. The fear of John's return loomed over me, turning what was supposed to be a relaxing trip into a nightmare. Sleep was elusive, and the once soothing sounds of the river now seemed to echo my paranoia. The encounter with John left a lasting impact on me. It transformed my experience, turning a much-anticipated solo camping trip into a series of restless nights and anxious days. The continuous fear and suspicion lingered, a stark reminder of the encounter's intensity. Reflecting on the incident, I realized the importance of trusting my instincts and being cautious of strangers, even in the most serene settings. The emotional aftermath of the encounter was challenging to cope with. The memory haunted me, serving as a reminder of how quickly situations can turn dangerous and how important it is to be aware of one's surroundings. My college friend Jake and I embarked on a camping adventure in the remote expanses of the Rocky Mountains, drawn by the allure of solitude and nature's raw beauty. We found a secluded spot deep in the forest, far from the usual trails, where we set up our camp. As evening fell, we settled by the fire, the comforting aroma of pine mixing with the scent of hot dogs grilling in the open air. It was the peaceful retreat we had sought, a perfect escape from our busy lives. The tranquility of the evening, however, was shattered in an instant. A woman's scream pierced the night, echoing through the trees with desperate urgency. The raw fear in her voice sent a chill down my spine. The screams were filled with such terror that they seemed to reverberate through the very air we breathed. Then, as suddenly as they had begun, the screams ceased, replaced by an eerie, oppressive silence that hung heavily around us. The abrupt end to the cries was more terrifying than the screams themselves, hinting at a sinister turn of events. Panic set in quickly. Jake and I hastily packed our gear, our sense of danger escalating with each passing moment. The darkness of the forest, once a source of awe and wonder, now felt more oppressive than ever. As we rushed back to our vehicle, our hearts pounded with a mix of fear and urgency. The unknown fate of the woman haunted our thoughts, her screams echoing in our minds. We made our way through the forest as fast as we could, the darkness seeming to close in around us. Every shadow seemed to hide potential danger, and every rustle in the bushes made us jump. The peacefulness of our camping trip had been irrevocably transformed into a nightmare. We were haunted by the thought of what might have happened to the woman and what could have happened to us if we had been in her place. Reaching our vehicle felt like an escape from a tangible threat, but the fear lingered, following us as we drove away from the campsite. We immediately called 911, our voices trembling as we reported what we had heard. The gravity of the situation was overwhelming, and each word we spoke was laden with anxiety. We tried to describe the location as best as we could, hoping that help would arrive in time. While waiting for the police to arrive, we witnessed a horrifying sight that confirmed our worst fears. A man emerged from the depths of the forest, dragging a heavy bag that seemed to contain a human form. The sight of him, his actions deliberate and sinister, sent a shockwave of terror through us. It was a gruesome realization that something horrific had occurred in the very woods where we had sought peace and solitude. The arrival of the police brought a brief moment of relief, but the unfolding events quickly overshadowed it. Upon noticing the authorities, the man abandoned the bag and fled back into the forest. The police gave chase, but the dense woods and the darkness provided the perfect cover for his escape. When the officers opened the bag, the gruesome discovery of a woman's remains confirmed the horrific nature of the night's events. The realization that we had been so close to such a dreadful crime was paralyzing. The thought of what could have happened if we hadn't heard the screams, or if we had encountered the man ourselves, was haunting. The aftermath of the incident left an unresolved threat hanging over us. The predator who had lurked in the wilderness remained at large, his fate unknown. Our view of the wilderness had changed irrevocably. What was once a serene escape into nature was now tainted with the knowledge of the darkness that could hide within it.